Welcome back. Welcome back once again to your number one source for education, information, inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in the country today. That is a career in the insurance industry. Today we have a very, very special guest. Very excited because this is actually someone who I'm a fan of. He is an employee benefits advisor. He's the CEO of Eureka Insurance Solutions and also the CEO of a tech firm, Agency Leverage. He's also the host of a podcast. One of my favorites is called Benefits Influencer. And there they share strategies and conversations with thought leaders and other individuals who are impacting, innovating, and elevating the employee benefits and HR industry. He is an industry veteran. He is an entrepreneur. He is a father, a husband, and really one of the most dynamic individuals, but also grounded individuals that I've ever had the opportunity to come in contact and communication with. So I'm excited for him to share his story and experiences. Welcome to the You Should Get a License podcast edition, Mr. Ned Schaut. Ned, welcome.
Hey, what's up, man? Killer introduction. Thank you so much. Stoked to be here.
Man, I'm so excited to have you on because, as a professional in this industry, I've gained, quite a bit of insight just listening to your platform. And when we connected, even with the technology, I was really excited for the opportunity to, have you come on and share more of your story. And, I've had the opportunity to speak personally, to you and read your incredible book, Rebel and Create, that we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But really, really good to have you here.
Love it. Thank you.
So, this platform is really about, educating individuals and sharing with them, what this career opportunity can bring for them in their lives. Before we start getting into your background, I always like to start with the area of specialty because there are so many different market segments in our industry. And really, I'm excited to talk to somebody who is in the employee benefit space. So can you speak about that, about your area of specialty and focus, what that means to be an employee benefits and what that looks like as a broker?
Yeah, so our agency has really decided to focus on small group. And we're primarily in California, starting to do some expanding into other states, but still focused on small groups. So in California, that would be groups of 2 to 99, 2 to 100. Now we'll work with some that are larger and we'll do some individual, but our focus is on small group and we're not trying to be jack of all trades, right? So we don't do payroll, we don't do workers' comp and P&C. We really try to hone in on that employee benefits piece, strictly like health, dental, vision, life, long-term disability, short-term disability, voluntary benefits, and just be really good at that.
Good. So when you're talking the employee benefits, because this is important. This is important because when people think about insurance, right? If they're going to go into a career in insurance, a lot of times they think insurance sales and they think life insurance sales to an individual at the kitchen table, having that conversation about, hey, well, what are you going to do, later on, for retirement, kind of those kitchen table style conversations.
Right.
How does being focused on the work site aspect of the business really differ? And how did you decide to take that route versus the one-to-one individual route?
Yeah, great question. Because when I first started out in sales in my early 20s, I was selling postage meters, which is mailing equipment. And that was business to business, right? So they stuck me handwritten business cards on Beach Boulevard, Huntington Beach, dropped me off and said, go cold call every one of these auto dealers. If you can do that and not want to quit at the end of the day, then you can do business to business sales. So I did what I was told. I got used to, that business to business. And then, 25 years old, starting to read Money Magazine, making 6 figures. I'm like, I want to be a financial advisor. And they shifted me into selling. So I went and started to work somewhere. They just wanted me to sell life insurance. It wasn't my jam. I didn't dig that portion. I think partially because I had been taught and was used to business sales. And so through that, I found employee benefits, which I like that conversation. It just fits my personality better to go in and talk to business owner, HR manager, and help uncover, what the needs are and then provide a solution. And they weren't spending their dollars as much as like company dollars. And that just to me was an easier sale. I mean, life insurance is important and that, one-on-one sale is critical, but I found myself really enjoying the business to business.
Absolutely. And in the worksite environment, you still get to have, the life insurance conversation if it's paired with their major medical benefits. We say, the term core benefits, which listeners may not hear all the time, but that core, which is that major medical, the dental, the vision, usually some group term life insurance. So you're still going to get the mix of all of those fundamentals that you need.
For sure. But you get that, the green light from the business owner, the HR manager, whoever it is you're dealing with, to get in there and create those relationships.
Absolutely. So before we dig more into that, because I want to talk about your background in the B2B as well, and how you started to make the transition into insurance. But I want to go all the way back before Eureka, before agency leverage, before benefits influence. I want to go all the way back to 9-year-old Ned Schaut. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, what I wanted to be was a pediatrician. That's what I thought. I always loved kids. And so that's what I thought I would do. But I did have a heart for entrepreneurship. I wouldn't have called it then, but we grew up on a golf course. And so me and my friends would go to find golf balls and we'd sell them to golfers. So from an early age, I was rocking the entrepreneur lifestyle of going and finding golf balls and going and making some money out on the golf course by selling them to golfers. And then the reason I kind of bowed out of the pediatrician thing was, you tell a kid you got to go to school till you're 28, and kind of just lost interest.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. The golf piece, that is a pretty good hustle. I played my first full round last week, and I know I probably shot about 250 because the balls were all over the place, and having somebody to go. I went through a whole bunch of balls, just kind of going through the course. I was just losing them all. So that definitely was a good foray into that entrepreneurship and smart thinking too. So let's talk about the start with the B2B sales. So how did that opportunity kind of come about? What is it that made you say, yeah, I'll do this? Mm-hmm. And how did that bridge into an insurance career, the budding of your insurance career?
Yeah. So, come 18, 19, 20, I thought I would own some kind of business. And then I also wanted to be a youth pastor. So at the time I was about 20 years old, I was helping out at a youth group in Orange County and kind of being groomed to eventually be a youth pastor. And I was outgoing, working with kids. And one of the other leaders, she had worked at a company, and she said, hey, we're doing this Rainmaker program where they're hiring young, potential sales guys to come in. It's a national program. I think you'd be great. And I'm like, man, not really interested. But I went anyways, right? I'm an opportunity guy. So if there's an opportunity, I'll go check it out. Yeah. So I went and checked it out, and they said, hey, this is a 3-month program. You have the chance to make X and go on this rad trip to Florida or somewhere if you win. And so I said, shoot, let's do it. So I joined that Rainmaker program. It was the first time the company had done it. And then I actually got first place nationally. So I won the whole national Rainmaker program. It was killer, right? It was fun. But to me, the fun part was like Monday morning when they do their sales calls, I'm coming in and there's a 40-year-old guy and I beat him. I cold called more than him last week, and they gave me a $75 Cheesecake Factory card. I'm like, wow, this is a huge win, right? Because I eat frozen burritos and like Del Taco. So at the end of that, there's a very critical moment for me. At the end of that, they offered me a job where I would, pretty quickly make over $100,000. And I was 21 years old, getting married. And my mentor at the time, who was the youth pastor at the church I was going to, he asked me, hey, so after you get married, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm just going to keep doing the youth pastor thing and this, that, and the other. And I remember I'm standing on like the parking lot. He's standing up on the curb. So he's a little higher than me. And he looks at me. He's like, that's not what you're doing. He's like, you're going to go take that job. He's like, that's what you need to do. This other stuff can be a part of your life. But if you want to start off providing for your family well, you got to go do that. So I listened to him, and I did that for 3 years. And then I decided I eventually wanted to make a transition, but it was advice well taken.
Yeah, man. Awesome. So you started out. So needless to say, you mentioned earlier, you said, hey, if we'll drop you off in the morning, if you're still around at the end of the day. then you can keep it going, for another round. Needless to say, you were still there at the end of the day and continue to excel, in that category. Where do you think that comes from? Like what was driving you, to be successful at such an early age?
Yeah, I think it was just, I've always loved to be competitive. And this was the first time that I was able to be competitive and just compete against myself. So, sometimes I'll find myself, if I'm playing a game with somebody, I don't try as hard because I want them to be happy. I want them to win. So it was the first time where the only person to compete against was myself, and then maybe some older guys, sales guys who've been around for a minute. But I think it was that, knowing that every door I walked into, they could either tell me, I had somebody grab me and throw me out of their building before, all of us who've been aggressive with sales have had those moments, and so I was just willing to do it one more time and one more time. There's nothing special about me. It's just, wow. Do you decide you want to go through that door one more time or not? And, then, I'll talk about it, but then I had a huge motive, and that was feeding my family. And so it was either hunt and kill or starve. And going home to my parents or asking people for money was never an option. So fast forward to when I started employee benefits, which you can get into, that's where it was like, all right, you got to make this happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you mentioned feeding the kids. Now you have 5 children.
Yes, sir.
5 children, which is, hey, look, that's a lot, but don't feel sorry for Ned because he lives in Hawaii where the weather's perfect all the time. So don't feel sorry for him. But yeah, man. So what was that feeling? Like you're 21 years old. You're starting a new career. You're married. You got a child coming, and you say, "Hey, look, I got to be competitive. I got to make this happen." What was there any other motivation, or was that the primary? That was the primary thing that was on your mind. Hey, I got to make sure that my wife and kid coming that's going to be good.
Yeah, I would love to say that I hope that was the primary, but I do think that there's this level of, something that I'm getting out of now is like being performance based. So I got a high off of Monday morning, and they'd say, okay, out of you 10 guys, who cold called the most last week? And there was something about the approval I got from these 40 to 50-year-old guys when I'm kicking the butt of the other reps that really provided value to me, almost too much. And so for me, it was almost like I just wanted to beat whoever else was in the room. So I think that was a lot of it, as well as knowing my potential. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's not bad, but I am breaking out of that being performance-based now because I want to be proud of myself. And a lot of times when you're performance-based, at the end of the day, it's always, I could have done more. And so there's this level of judgment on yourself, which I do think becomes unhealthy at a certain level.
Wow. That is really, really insightful. What's one thing I didn't hear you say was a motivating factor. You said, hey, look, I got my wife, got my family. It is, kind of the feeling of accomplishment, that affirmation and edification that I would receive from the other leaders. Earlier, you mentioned there was an opportunity to make some money, but you didn't mention the money that you were making as the primary motivation. Do you think did that play a role, or was that not really the focus? Because there's different schools of thought, especially in sales careers and in insurance. I came up where, look, don't worry about the money, worry about the value that you're going to bring, taking care of your clients, and the money's going to follow. Some people are like, yo, you got to think about what do you want to make, and based on what you want to make, kind of work backwards to formulate what activity steps you're going to take to get there. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I did like making money. I did, but I will tell you, there was a moment where I said, I don't work for money. I went to my boss and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you 6 months notice. I'm out. I'm going to go be a youth pastor, and I want to try a financial advisor. And they threw everything at me, and there was, my mentor there was driving Mercedes and lived in a 4,000 square foot house in Orange County. Cool life. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really money motivated necessarily. Because I just don't, I don't want to work for you guys forever. I want to do my own thing. So I wouldn't say that the money was a driver for me. It was more, I just wanted to win. And I'm reminded of a story. You have this list of clients or prospects you're calling on. And there was this one I really wanted to get in Orange County. And I've been calling on for 2 or 3 years. And I knew I was better than my competitor, right? I didn't have the same name as them, but I knew that I had better to offer. And I just wanted to win so bad. And I called, and I remember this, I'm 22 years old. I call, and the guy gets on the phone and he says, "Oh, we just signed paperwork last week with your competitor." I'm like, "I've been calling you for, a couple years on this." And so I drove down there. I snuck through the back to get to the shipping warehouse to go meet the guy who made the decision. And I said, "Here's why you need to go with me and retract that paperwork. You've got 10 days or whatever you had to retract it." And he switched and went to me. And it was less about the money. It was about the win. Like, I knew that they would be better with me and that I had more to offer. And so for me, it was like, all right, I beat my competitor. And then that sales rep actually came to work for us not too long after. So that
was cool. Yeah. That's a double win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you get good people out of it as well. So going into the employee benefits, side of the business, how'd you make that transition from the direct life and correct me if I'm wrong. This is 100% commission that you were doing this on, or?
So on the mailing equipment, I was, part salary, whatever, okay, couple grand a month, and then commission on top of it, and then quarterly bonuses,
okay.
But my last year, I'm, fairly young, making 6 figures selling mailing equipment in South Orange County. So at that time, then I said, you know what, I want to be a financial advisor. So I went to work for a big company, and I don't have a college degree. So I talked them into hiring me, and realized very quickly I did not like the life insurance sale, because nobody trusts a 25-year-old with millions of dollars. So they wanted me to sell life insurance. At the time, I was a youth pastor as well. And so I didn't have that natural market, right? So it's like, they're telling you go sell everybody, but I didn't know anybody other than people at church. It just felt like a total conflict of interest. So eventually I was like, hey, I spent all my 401k. I spent all my money. I went from making, 6 figures to making I think I made negative, right? Because I spent all my 401k and all my savings. And I met a guy who'd been in the business 25 years who wanted to start an employee benefits agency. So him and I started that together in 2008.
Got you. So making that transition, how was that, having a family? Like what does your wife say when she's like, you're going from this job where, you were making all this money. Now you're making less. And now you're going to do something where you're doing your own business. What was that conversation and what happened?
Yeah. So we moved to Northern California, 2007 or so. We have one kid on the way. Once our second kid is 4 months old, we're living in Northern California. We get surprise pregnant with twins. So then 2009 is when I'm making this, I'm starting off, I'm making a couple grand a month, and we've got 4 kids under the age of 4. She was so preoccupied and we were so broke. We were getting free cheese and milk from the government. And, I stood in line once for WIC, women and children, the program at the grocery store to get the free cheese and milk. And I'm like, dude, I cannot be doing this. And I do not want my wife doing this with 4 little ones. So she was super gracious and super encouraging. But we call it the dark year, 2009, like the dark year. We don't remember much. It was just like, make it happen. So she was supportive, man. I mean, that's all I could say. She was supportive, and she trusted me that I was going to go figure it out.
Yeah. Someone entering into, this business, we talk about, support structures all the time, and it's good to have someone there. If it's not a spouse, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a relative, to keep encouraging you. How important was it to have her support in those early stages, especially with the children?
It was 100% important to have her support, but I understand that not everybody's going to fully have that. And so to go find somebody in your network or in your industry and ask them, hey, will you be a mentor to me? Like somebody who's been in the business 10, 20, 30 years, people say yes. So I had a guy, Brad Davis, and he was a mentor to me, and he would meet. And it wasn't even that we competed in the same town. He didn't care. He would just mentor me, and I would do the same for somebody else at this point. And so it's guys like that who will come alongside and support you, and then it's like, how comfortable do you need to be? I think part of the problem now is a lot of people want these $60,000 to $100,000 base salaries. And it's tough, because I get it on one hand, But on another hand, I think it makes you stuck, because it's not like I have to go kill something today because, oh, we'll just figure it out. We'll just live off of a little bit. I was making $1,800 a month when I started with 4 kids. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's rent. So anyways, mentorship, critical.
That's rent in California? Shit, I thought rent in California might be double that.
Oh yeah. This is also, I'm 38 now. So it's 14 years ago, you know?
No, I get it, man. No, you mentioned something, very, very important, which was, find that mentorship and find that guidance of someone who has kind of been where you want to go. Because I'm sure that your mentor had also experienced some of those same pains and hardships, early in their careers as well, and was able to kind of keep you from kind of jumping off the ledge and throwing away what ended up becoming a great opportunity for you. Is that true? Or?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's not so much about learning, right? Like we can all learn anything. It's having that belief in yourself that if somebody else did this, I can do it too.
Right.
Now, you be realistic, right? I'm not going to be a professional basketball player because I went and got a mentor in this. But if you have the skill set or can acquire the skill set to do this thing, there are people out there who will teach you. But I think ultimately, it's not so much like, should I sell this plan or this plan? It's hey, I struggled. You are going to struggle. And what are you going to do in that struggle? Like, are you going to let it defeat you, or are you going to believe in yourself? And really, I think mentorship is about that. Like somebody who's been through the fire and willing to share their struggle so that you have the, I can do this too kind of attitude.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. So going into your firm, I mean, look, you talked about, having the mentorship, really having somebody that believes in you, that can keep pushing you. But eventually, you started to cultivate, the skills that would make you proficient, in this space. You're starting to build your book of business. What skills do you think were most important in launching your agency, specifically in employee benefits? What skills do you think that you absolutely needed to have?
Yeah, I think we like to tinker on the logo and the website, and we like to tinker on stuff. At the end of the day, you have to go talk to people. You have to make calls. You have to get told no 1,000 times, and you have to just keep hunting. So cultivating that habit of dialing, of not being distracted by spending 4 hours on LinkedIn, thinking about this long-term, like that's all fine, but do that after. Let that be a reward for I made 100 phone calls today, or I dropped off 50 flyers today. So everybody wants to focus on technology and strategy, which I love, man. I'll do that all day. But very first, you have to just go out there and talk to 1,000 people, count how many conversations. That's what we track now. How many conversations did I have about benefits this week? Right? With somebody. So I would say that ultimately, if you can overcome that piece, then all the other stuff you could figure out. I mean, we live in a world where I could find a podcast or a blog on absolutely anything.
Right.
But then I'll tell you, once you overcome that hurdle, the next thing is hire people better than you, hire people smarter than you. And that's really when I made a shift, was when I hired somebody who I looked up to. I was intimidated by their language and their effectiveness, and it changed the game for my business because they were able to do things that I thought I could do, but it wasn't my zone of genius.
Many times, whether it be mentorship or in your case, hiring someone who maybe had more technical prowess than you had. So sometimes that can be intimidating, right? So what was your approach when you went to that mentor? And then we can also double back and say, hey, what was the approach when you had the conversation with the person who would end up joining your team? What was the conversation with them that you don't seem like you have a lot of fear and timidity, by the way, but what was the conversation that said, hey, look, can you work with me on this? Can you be there for me?
Yeah. So on the mentorship piece, it's, hey, so-and-so said you're a great person. I've got a family. I'm trying to grow in this business. I'm not interested in working for anybody. And I was wondering if you would be a mentor to me. You could even say, never going to compete with you in this area. But are you willing to meet with me once a month for a year and teach me? And most people, I would say if you've been referred, they're a good leader, they've done well, they're successful, they're going to say yes. But here's the caveat to that, because I've had a few people ask me, and you have to be the one to show up. So when they say yes, you got to be the one to pursue them. They're not your mom. They're not your dad. That's not what mentorship is. You got to set the intention and you got to show up, be 5 minutes early, confirm the meeting. Once you waste their time and do what they say, do what they say. Once you waste their time one time and you don't acknowledge or affirm that they're leading and teaching you, it's game over. They ain't going to pay attention to you. I wouldn't.
Very important. Very important. You mentioned setting the time, right? So you didn't just say, hey, would you be willing to do this for me? But look, would you be willing to meet with me once a month for a year? Mm-hmm. That's very specific, right? To make sure that because, people's time is valuable. And you're right. If you drop that ball and you're not serious, if you're not serious, they're not going to take you serious.
No way. Especially if you're talking to somebody who has a level of success that you desire. That's right. I mean, their time is so critical.
Yeah.
Or important, but people want to help people. So if you make the ask, I'm telling you, you ask 5 successful people, one of them will tell you yes, guaranteed.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. That in and of itself is just such a huge nugget because it keeps you accountable, to that process. And, accountability is going to help you achieve those results that you're looking for. So, once you have your firm, you're up and running. At this, let me see, we're in 2021. You started 2008. It's 12 years in. How do you continue to stay motivated in the process? Like, how do you keep moving forward with this?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a coach to some level for the last 4 years, probably. So setting intention for where I want to go, right? And then putting the tools around me to get there. And that it depends where you want to go. Like if you want to build $1 million book of business and then sit on that and golf and take people to lunch and things like that, that's fantastic. This is a great business for that. Mm-hmm. If you're wanting a different level of freedom or you want to start other businesses, then you've got to eventually make a shift, which is what I'm making now, is shifting from having a business that I'm a glorified employee at, right? A sole proprietorship, to owning a business, which is I could walk away from this thing and it's going to run on its own. Now that's the shift that I'm personally making because I want to own a business. I don't want to have a business that owns me. Both are good. You just got to know which one you want, right? And so what I do is once a year, I take 2 days and I go reflect on the last year and I make decisions about where I want to go this next year. And I've done that for about 6 years, which helps me to know, you've got to get out of your day to day to ask yourself, hey, how am I doing? Where am I going? What works? And so that's been really critical for me. And if you make a habit of, setting time aside with yourself to reflect, then you will kind of get those path marks that you're heading towards.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. You're taking some time to, one, get into a quiet space so you can focus. You can program your subconscious mind on what you want to accomplish in that time frame. But it also gives you the clarity to set your goals and know exactly, the steps you need to take in order to get there. Is that kind of that process?
Yep, exactly.
No, it's awesome, man. So let's talk about, some of these other businesses. You've achieved, quite a bit of success, with your agency. You've built a book. You guys have been successful there. How did you get into, the other platforms? Because in the insurance industry, right? Sometimes people feel like you have to make a trade-off, right? You have to, if you're going to be in insurance, which is normally kind of a stuffy kind of business to be in, then you're not necessarily you can't be a creative person. You can't, still have those other outlets. And you found a way to really incorporate those things and have a lot of balance in that area. So I'd love to hear, how you started to make that transition. And I want to talk about how the Benefits Influencer podcast came about and how Rebel and Create, that podcast and book came about as well. Yeah,
sounds good. So ultimately, 2014, we have the Affordable Care Act come in. We had where we were at a lot of our groups all renew fourth quarter. I was working 80 hours a week. Like I was drowning and I was dying and I was not happy. And so come January, February, I had a decision to make. Do I just thank God that I have a breathing room now and just chill for the next 9 months? Or do I figure out a strategy so that I'm not dying in 9 months? So that's the moment where I hired somebody. I took a big pay cut and I went and disc profiled people to find somebody who was opposite me, who could actually create systems and processes that would free me up. And fast forward 2 years later, I'm sitting on a park bench or a picnic table in the middle of the Grand Tetons National Park. I took a whole month off of work and my team had everything. And I remember calling Hoy from my team saying, brother, you joining my team 2 years ago, I am now having a whole month off with my family because of the systems and processes that you put in place. And I remember I'm just sitting there on this picnic bench going, this was why, right? So it took a lot of work to put those systems and processes in, but that was the thing that gave me the freedom for myself and for my team to be able to now have time, right? Because that's what we all want is time. And right. This business is killer because it's reoccurring revenue if you do it right and you serve people well. So I would say that was the critical moment that freed me up to not be a slave to my business. Okay. And so then at that point, I had more time. And yes, insurance is a little bit kind of like stuffy, if you will. There's not a lot of creativity. I'd always been passionate about fatherhood. So I wrote a book on fatherhood. Then I wrote a journal for dads. And then I started a podcast for dads. And that was my passion. Now, the benefit was I didn't need to make money at that because my benefits company was feeding me. And then from that, I've always wanted to own multiple businesses. And so I was able to buy agency leverage from a friend, which is a marketing tool that I had been using called Hunter. And we bought that in November, and now we're building that out as well. And so that's where I get to be a little bit more creative and pursue some different passions. And there's other strategy and reasons why, but I'm happy to talk about anything with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to just note that, you don't have to be stuck in that, an insurance career can be platformed into other things as well, right? You didn't say, hey, look, I'm going to stop at the agency. I'm going to take this agency and then I'm going to leverage my time that the agency has given me to do this, right? I'm going to leverage my experiences, contacts, connections, marketing know-how to do this.
And that's why it's critical to build a good team, and I see some insurance agents not, because really what we have is culture and team. That's what you're building. Yeah. So that's where I spend a lot of my time in my agency is building the culture and the team. And so that then I have freedom and they have freedom as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned DISC personality test, just for people who aren't listening, well, who are listening, but aren't familiar with that terminology, DISC. Can you talk about that a little bit? You say you did a DISC personality test to get someone who was the opposite of you. Share a little bit more on that, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So this is something we're still building out, but I'll share the ideal process. Okay. The ideal process is that if you have a job, you need to have a job description, or we call it a success profile. That success profile needs to state like what the job is, what the skill set is for that job. So then what we do is if you want to join our team, first thing we do is we give you a book called Big Five for Life by John Strzelecki. I've given out over 300 copies already, not for people who want to work here, but just like in general.
I got you. So
step one, somebody's got to read that book and come to us and say, because at the end of the book, what's your purpose for existing and what are the 5 things that you are about? So this helps a ton. So just in this year, I've had 2 people who wanted to work for our team come to us. And one of their big 5 was be CEO of a company. Well, then there's no reason for you to be here. Go do that somewhere else. So it was easy for us to come alongside and say, hey, we don't want to steal your life or your dreams, but that's not an option here. Another person, their eventual goal was to be an attorney. So we're like, why aren't you pursuing that now? Go pursue that, right? So that was a great way for somebody to read a book, come back and go, okay, our values and direction don't line up. So once that's done, then we do a DISC profile. The DISC profile you can put in against the job description or success profile to say, does your personality meet with the job that we need you to do? Yeah. If it doesn't, then again, we're stealing your life, right? Because people work 40 hours a week for your company. That's a huge portion of their life.
It is.
So if you can find what matters to their heart, to their soul, to their character, their personality, and you can provide that, at their job, then they're not showing up just like drained and hate their job. So those are two tools that we use to help make sure we're bringing on the right people for the role that they're going to play at Team Eureka.
Yes. Yes. And the DISC, those personality tests, for those that are listening, they're good. They're good to take. You can find out, some pretty insightful things even about yourself, as well as, people who are around you that might be interested in taking one as well. So I'm thinking of the acronyms. You have the dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness for those tests. So just in case you aren't familiar with the DISC test, there are some resources out there where you can, take one, and maybe you can even find out a little bit about yourself. This is an industry where, people come from all different types of backgrounds and a variety of personality types, but you can certainly get an understanding for how you might fare in this kind of environment, by taking those assessments.
Yeah. And the next piece to that was critical for our team is those discs. Like, you could take the disc and I take it, and then it's going to say, you could create a report that says, this is how Ned interacts with Rod. This is how Rod responds to things. So we could sit down and have a half-hour conversation so that I better understand you. Oh, when I do this, this is what you're hearing. So then you have these better working relationships. And then in our company dashboard, you could actually go look these up. So like, if I'm having conflict with you or feeling like, God, what's up with that conversation? He was such a punk. And I go read, I'm like, oh, I see from his, he's way on this side of the disc profile that now I get it. He didn't mean that. So it provides us to have better communication as a team.
Wow. And isn't that what it's all about? Even in this business, it's about communication.
That's the thing is, at the end of the day, for a long time, I felt like, man, insurance is not like, I thought I'd be a pro surfer or something cool.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we all, I remind myself that pro surfer is traveling around the world wishing he was with his family, right? Yeah. So everything has the grass is greener. And so for this insurance, I've really looked at my opportunity. It doesn't matter about the widgets we sell or the products. It's about the team, the culture, the environment, and are we helping people?
That's right. And you still get to surf, right?
Almost every day.
There you go. All right. So it worked out. So tell me, Ned, it sounds like, and I read your book, Rebel and Create. I got it right here. I'm gonna put it on the camera.
Yeah,
make sure
I love
you
it.
pick
Thanks.
it up. Yes, make sure you pick it up. But I know that in your youth, you wanted to open a sports center or a center, right? And you were gonna have your ministry out of the center. And for a while you did that.
Yep.
Is that something that you still have aspirations to do?
Not so much. Okay. So I kind of look at it a little bit differently now. I thought I'd open a youth center. That was my ultimate goal. And in 2015, it was at my fingertips. It was all being handed to me. It was going to happen. And then it all fell apart. And that's the time where I did a ton of self-reflection. And that's when Rebel and Create came to me. Like, what is it that I'm really wanting to accomplish? And what am I doing? Right. I was looking for all these. I was looking to be respected, valued, needed, and then I was leaving a mark on this earth through this thing I was building outside my home. And I felt this like, Ned, that's great. But first you got your home, you got 5 kids at home, and you don't have to jockey for their attention. You don't have to throw a great event. So I decided, you know what, I am going to go all in on my family. And so that's when the mantra Rebel and Create came to me, which can be applied to anything, but like, I'm going to rebel against the idea that the adventure for my life is out there somewhere else. And I'm going to create a home where all that I desire, I can do right here. And so through that, I started to find a lot of value in it. And I thought, you know what, there's probably a ton of other men. Like I looked around, like at church example, on a Sunday morning, and I'm like, there's a UPS driver. That guy manages Target. That guy's a construction worker. And in our world, we're the guys who wake up and kind of make the world go round, but we glorify these other roles, right? Which is great. But I felt like, there's probably a lot of men who feel like their identity is, they just haven't met it, but they haven't realized all the potential they have in their home. So that's what Rebel and Create was about. And that's my mission with fatherhood, is help men to see who they already are, and that the desires of their heart can be filled, not in a hobby or not in some career, but it can be filled in their home. Now, I'm not saying don't have dreams to still do something, but it can't be the primary place you find fulfillment, because I think you'll be let down. So that's what Rebel and Create is about.
That's wonderful, man. Look, now that was before you were licensed, right? So
no, so actually I was licensed in 2008 for employee benefits. And then I wrote the book in 2015.
No, I mean, it's the youth center. That was before.
The youth center, no, that closed in 2015, and I was doing.
Okay, so you were still in benefits with the youth center. Okay.
Yep.
I was thinking the youth center was before. So let me ask this question, because this is the question I was leading up to. How do you feel like, as it pertains to your insurance license, you got a lot of, man, you have a lot of elements, man. But how do you feel like your life was different before you were licensed versus after you were licensed?
So licensed as an agent.
As an agent.
Well, I would say that ultimately I had looked at being licensed as an agent as a stepping stone to get to where I wanted to go, because I knew I could build a book of business. But through that process, right, we're all on a journey. I realized that my opportunity as an insurance agent, as a licensed individual, I had this incredible opportunity to serve people, which is what I wanted to do, to really come alongside individuals, even if that's through like worksite benefits, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm thinking about that dad and mom who's showing up at some company to trade their time for money and for benefits. So to me, those are the card carrying members. So I've really shifted my mindset that insurance matters from the moment you're born to the moment you die. It's going to matter all in between. So although it might not be a sexy industry, it's an opportunity to live out my core values to help people through this industry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like having the license and the experiences as a result have changed you as a person?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's required me, if I take it serious, to level up. Like if I'm going to have a license and go out and say that I know what I'm doing, I better know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, this matters to people. When you sit down with a dad who starts to cry because his premium's going up, when you talk to a mom who gets a call, who calls you because they don't understand why they got to bring $3,000 for their kid's hernia surgery, and you're able to come alongside them and serve them. This cannot be like, I just took some test so that I could make money. This has to be something that you care about people, you believe in people, and you provide value. Like you said this at the beginning, if you truly believe that you can show up and provide value, you will be paid for that, right? And even if this is a stepping stone, don't half-ass it. Give it your all. And then if the other thing comes along, fantastic. But that same mentor who told me to go work at that sales company, he always told me, if you're a part of something, be a part of it until the day you're fully released from it, right? If you know I'm leaving this company in 6 months, don't just do mediocre work for 6 months. Show up every day, because it's not just about you. It's about everybody you're touching, right? And so that's really important. Somebody's going to carry around an insurance license and say they know what they're doing. They got to know what they're doing. And that's not an overnight thing. That's coming with experiences and mentorship and conversations. So, yeah, I think it's a serious thing, but I think that it's a very rewarding. I mean, I moved my family to Hawaii 3 months ago because my son couldn't breathe where we lived, and we tried for years to figure it out. And because of this industry, because I've built a company that could be remote, I have the flexibility that when my son can't breathe, I can say, what are my options? And I can do something about it. I'm not a victim to my circumstances. And if you provide value, whether it's this industry or another, you'll have freedoms that many people don't have, because they're not waking up with let me help provide value. They're waking up with, what can you do for me? And that's very limiting.
Yeah, man, that is a powerful statement. I would say that's huge, to be able to be able to have a career path that kind of happened, coincidentally, so to speak, and utilize that as a platform to build something for your family, where you have the flexibility to take care of your children's needs, whatever they may be. Because that's a big step to move from California to Hawaii.
Yeah, there's huge, but I want to share two things. So if you're young in this business and you're going after this, two things. When I first got into sales, we had a base pay of $2,500 and we're 22 years old. And my friends would call me at noon and they'd say, Ned, we're at Disneyland, or we're watching, the Lord of the Rings trilogy today. Come over. And I'd be like, oh man, I'm working till 5. I got to they're like, dude, who cares? We get a base salary, whatever. But I put the time in. These guys would go to the restaurants and grab business cards out of the fishbowl so that they had business cards to show on Monday morning. Wow. Right. So I'm just saying, you cannot expect to have the freedoms you want without putting the work in at the beginning, and now I'm at the point, I've been doing this sales for almost 20 years. And I had this aha. It was a Wednesday. I told 2 of my daughters, hey, let's ditch school today and go snowboarding. We're sitting at the restaurant having lunch and we're eating a $40 lunch. Right. And I had this like, oh crap, I don't want my kids to think that you could just do this whenever. So we have this conversation. Like, I want to paint the picture of why we were able to do this today, because I don't want you to be 25 years old at your first, starting your career out and going, Dad used to ditch on a Wednesday and take us snowboarding and not eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the lift, which is what I did as a kid. Right. And so I'm really trying, like once you build a level of success, to also help your children understand how you got there and help them to have struggle so that they don't, be that typical, like a family who has some success, their kids don't experience that because they don't understand struggle. So those are just 2 thoughts I felt like I had to share because I think they're really critical if you're young, getting licensed, building a career.
Very important. I mean, those experiences that actually take you to whatever you define as success, I think those experiences are a part of that definition of success.
100%. Yeah.
Right. It's not just that end result, but it's that entire road. Like that is what makes you successful, all of it, not just the end result. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, man. So at this point in your career, what's the dream now? Like what are the aspirations at this stage?
Yeah. So the aspirations right now is for Team Eureka to really build out its sales team and to grow. We have a goal of tripling over the next 3 years for Eureka. And so that's the goal. And really for me to step into that leadership role of, business owns me to me owning a business. So that's the transition for Eureka. And then agency leverage, which is a marketing tool for benefits brokers. That is really, it's been a tool that's worked great for me. And I want to make it available to brokers all across the United States who are growth minded. I'm not trying to have thousands of users. I want to have a couple hundred users who are stoked, right? No contracts. It's for us, by us. We have input in it. So that's the goal with that. And then the Rebel and Create fatherhood stuff, there's no limit on that. I just want to help as many fathers I can in the world discover who they already are and live to their full potential. So I got a few things I'm working on with that.
Yeah, man. Look, I mean, you're on a path to make all of those things happen. I can certainly tell, your energy is infectious. The vibe, the spirit is great. You gave some tips. You gave some tips already, for new people who are thinking about entering into this industry. Any last tidbit that you might want to share for someone who is maybe on the fence thinking, maybe this is something I should get into. Maybe they had an interview with a company and then they catch, your interview and this is where they're going to glean that insight.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One is if you decide to join this industry, you're making a fantastic decision, but know that it's a long-term decision. So don't say, I'm going to try this out for a year. Give yourself 3 years minimum, right? Like small businesses only, most of them fail under 5 years. So go after this. I'll tell you that whatever you decide to do, if you put your whole heart and pursue it, it will be a success. The problem is a lot of times people are just chasing this quick success. There is no quick success. Anybody who tells you that is full of crap. So go after it if you decide. If you do decide, then 3 things that I would really recommend that you do is 1, make a dashboard and track your time. Pay attention. How much time am I spending on marketing, on learning, on team time, on mentorship? Track your time, because then at the end of the year, when you do self-reflection, you could turn the dials on those things. Second is learn. Read a book a month. Read. Find a podcast, listen to that. You have to be learning. We live in an incredible time where you can have tons of mentors who are amazing. And then third, which is what I'm working on now, is to honor your work time. And when it's cutoff time, you honor that and you go home and you love on your family. That is something that I'm working on. Be kind to yourself. At the end of the day, be happy for your successes and don't judge yourself for not getting as much done as you had anticipated. So those are the things that I think will help you shine as a human being and as a licensed agent.
That's right. Be organized. Be patient with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Absolutely. So please share, Ned, before we wrap it up here, how do folks get in contact with you? Please share the information on the podcast, the website, platform, any ways that folks can connect with you after they listen or see this.
Yeah. Shoot me an email. ned@agencyleverage.com is good. Find me on LinkedIn, Ned Schaut. Easy enough. There's not a lot of us out there. And then Instagram is where my day-to-day life is, enjoying time with family. And with that, I just hope to inspire other people to enjoy their family as well.
Absolutely. Hey, look, thank you, Ned, for joining. And look, we'll have the information is going to be, if you're watching on YouTube, the information is going to be in the description, with all of Ned's links as well. And maybe, you heard something today that, spark some interest, made you think maybe, you should get a license, but until next time, thank you very much. Take care.